Spirituality and science, it's all energy. That's the bridge.
We're understanding how powerful we are.
Yes.
And how what we believe, what we emit, what we take in is actually so important, and it will determine everything in our life. It's bringing your expertise and your passion of research and scientific research and bioenergy studies to the Heka field to try and understand what is actually happening in those sessions.
I'm a physician, a medical doctor by training. The Heka light field that's created virtually even, which is the same as the day it was transmitted, creates order.
Now is opening a whole new way to understanding Heka.
Even just being in this space, what we've already started to see is every individual that we've tested, their total complete biofield energy went up in orders of magnitude from one session. The individuals are actually holding more energy in their biofield above normal baseline, normal age match controls. It's confirming that, yes, when we call in this light, the light comes in and light is energy.
And that is completely what we're seeing with this experience. It's that right now in our 3D physical world, we don't have yet the coherent spaces to have that kind of level of really high frequencies coming through.
This was eye-opening.
It's a pleasure to have been on this newer journey with you, Sunny. It's been already quite a very interesting ride, and I'm super happy now to introduce you to the community that have been following Heka work and this beautiful living light field that has been awakening in all of us, and now bringing you on board, becoming a facilitator yourself, but also bringing your very specific medicine to this entire realm that we are now exploring. And yeah, I would love for you to introduce yourself as you are now for the first time, and as we will dive into a very specific information.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. My name is Sunny C, and I'm a physician, a medical doctor by training with specialization in ophthalmology, so eyes and eye surgery, the science of vision. And then I did more training in diseases of the retina, so specifically in the back of the eye, and have experience also in clinical research and gene therapy and sound healing and music, and effectively the combination of light and sound. And so I was drawn to the Heka light field over the last year, and have had the opportunity, of course, to have a number of Heka sessions with you as a facilitator, as well as your other team of facilitators. And as a recipient of the field, I myself had questions. What's happening? Sometimes I felt movement, sometimes I did not. And some of these questions then prompted me to look deeper and engage with you, and here we are.
Amazing. I'm so glad to see how it's all weaving in such a divine way and so orchestrated for us to always meet in the perfect moments and then awaken those beats of inspiration that now is opening a whole new way to understanding Heka. And so that's what you and I have been now focusing on and directing ourselves toward. It's bringing your expertise and your passion of research and scientific research and bioenergy studies to the Heka field to try and understand what is actually happening in those sessions, and to try to measure the unspeakable, mystical, divine experiences that people have been having all these years. So for me, this is incredible, because I often talk about Joe Dispenza, of course. He's amazing in this field of...
Dr. Joe.
Yeah, Uncle Joe. We love you very much. And yeah, just bridging spirituality and science to make the most divine, mystical experiences of remembrance of who we truly are accessible and available to everyone from a very Cartesian mind. So that has been my first wow, yes, let's please do that, because it would be incredible to actually have a science that approve all the intuitive and very felt experience that we've been having, but that are beyond the mind. Yeah. And so taking science to another level, just like Heka has taken us to another level as human beings, multidimensionally open.
Mm-hmm. And I think really when you touched on something earlier, spirituality and science, it's all energy. That's the bridge. And so while we're conditioned, at least from my traditional training, are conditioned at sort of science and medicine is one thing and spirituality is another, more and more during these times we're becoming aware that the unifying thread is energy, and having the tools now that are available to study energy, to communicate it in the language that we are used to from a scientific perspective with metrics, and ultimately it's the experience. As a pioneer in the field in Heka, as well as the leader, you're aware quite deeply that this is an experiential process. But translating the experience from what it's experienced in your hands to the five senses to something granular that people can look, touch, and feel and say, oh, I see that that's happening and I can understand it better, is I think where we're bridging the science. We don't need metrics to confirm that this is happening. It's, again, happening. We're feeling it. It's a felt phenomenon. But I think for some of the community, and as we bridge both sides of the spectrum, really being able to quantify the energy has been helpful.
Absolutely, and this is so exciting because it really is the next phase. And I love the way that it's been going, by the way, that we start in absolute surrender. So we surrender the mind, we surrender everything we think we know, and we begin by the experience of the divine and having to trust that first, fully, so that we can have the experience itself, because it only can happen through trust. Yeah. And then once we have it, once we trust it enough, once we have come back into this divine union within, and once we open up to our own power, full potential and gifts in this life, then we get the science, and then the mind gets satisfaction of all these things. But starting with the trust, letting go, and coming into this humble position of remembering this oneness, but from the humbled self, not from the ego anymore, and then coming with the science to embrace it.
And I think that takes us back to what you mentioned earlier about some of the work that we've seen from pioneers like Dr. Joe and others that are working in like the Heart Math Institute that are working on heart-brain coherence and quantifying that for us, which has been validated in peer-reviewed studies. This idea of opening up to the divine, being in a surrendered state, that is, as we know, heart-brain coherence. Getting into that space. And when we get into that space, we become open to the ideas of more and receiving and letting go. And I think that's where Heka steps in. So mathematically and from scientific perspective, that's the actual bridge. And we've already started to do some pretty interesting experiments. Over the course of this week, during the facilitation week, one of the first questions that I had as a recipient of the energy and of the experience is, we have video or virtual recordings or virtual Heka experiences. Is the energy being transmitted through the virtual experience at all? Or is it something that's happening into the mind, or is it something else? And so we actually had an opportunity to look at this. So we are using basically technology like the Biofield devices and the Sputnik devices in order to measure water, as well as the electromagnetic field in the room. So this technology has been validated for the last 15, 20 years. It's been used in multiple areas of medicine. And one of the experiments that we did this week was having water, basically distilled water, exposed to the Heka light field that was being transmitted through a pre-recorded virtual engagement. And we were able to measure metrics like energy, intensity, entropy. And entropy, for those of us that don't remember our high school science, it's order versus chaos. So when we talk about coming into coherence, we're going into a more ordered state. And when we're in dissonance or chaos, that's high entropy. And so what we already saw was not only does the virtual experience hold the energy from the original date of recording and transmission, but the Heka light field that's created virtually even, which is the same as the day it was transmitted, creates order. And it reduces entropy. So we're making a more coherent field in the room, and hence we get some of the experiences that we've seen in your practices. And we saw the same thing in water. We took the measurements of water before exposure, and then we took water and measured it during the exposure and then even afterwards. And what we saw was that after the exposure, the coherence in the water increases. And briefly, when the signal is stopped, there's a bump phenomenon where you get a moment of dissonance, and then it remembers to retain that coherence and retains it for hours after the fact. So why do we use water? I mean, water, we're 70% water, so oftentimes water is a good measure of what's happening within us. And when we go through sound healing processes, we also know through cymatics that what's happening within our body is reflective of the frequency that we're being exposed to. And so this was one of those amazing experiments that I myself was wowed, because as a believer and experiencer, but somewhat still in the medical mind, scientific mind, it's nice to put your finger on something and say, okay, now I can better understand it. This was eye-opening.
Wow. Yeah, this was exceptional, because when I saw those first results, what was right in front of our eyes was just the absolute scientific proof of the fact that indeed there is no time or space with energy. It's all quantum. And so when we are opening a field of energy wherever we are in the world, if we are connecting to it at the same time, we will have the same effect as if we were in person. That's why Heka activations have been held in person and online. And you just did that with these online sessions that were held, and then the Zoom was recorded. So what was proven through these studies was that indeed, the Heka light field, the way that we've been experiencing it, so harmonizing, so healing all the distortions, all the incoherence, and actually bringing everything back into this harmonious state and helping us to feel more like ourselves, more alive, that this was completely proven by the water experience. And so it's quite exceptional, because we can see, and I was always talking about that in my own intuitive and experienced way when I was seeing thousands of people on the mat experiencing similar things, that the Heka living field is really bringing through a integrated experience overall. Even though there is an activation of high frequency of life force, of pure light energy, and you could see that with the elevation of it, the intensity, the energy is there, it's intense. Yet, there is something that's been happening in the nervous system of the people where the two nervous systems are activated, the sympathetic and parasympathetic. And the two together, we were always seeing an integration and a regulation of whatever upgrade was actually happening in the body. And so that was also with the bump effect that you recognized during the test, that there's
a recalibration that happens
Yeah.
in the period right afterwards, where, and I think this is interesting because the instructions that are given to people following the sessions about integration is to be gentle with yourself. Emotions may come up. Things may happen in the coming weeks. A glass of water is a mirror of the body, but it's not the body. Many more complex events are happening in the body. So while a glass of water may re-equilibrate within an hour, a human body may take a longer time or shorter time, depending on the individual. But those instructions about what to expect, that things may get a little more chaotic before they come into coherence, it really sort of fits for me. And obviously, being an investigator, but also on the experiential side, it does make sense that when we do send energy of this highlight through the human energy field, and we awaken and we unearth other lower impressions and lower energies that rise to the surface, they're not going to come into coherence in that 60-minute period for the next rest of your lifetime. It will take some time for integration process to occur for you then to be able to move forward with your new version of yourself. So that seems to sort of be coming out of a lot of the early signals that we have from these experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And it reflects what all these people have been experiencing, ourselves included, when going through the surrender of the Heka Light activation, which is only the activation of our own light. And there's an upgrade from there, because we surrender the mind to surrender to actually our higher self, so a higher light body. And then this creates the upgrade that we then need to integrate in our life. So it's all... It feels very natural process of evolution, but indeed Heka is fast tracking it in a way, not shortcutting it. There's still a lot of work to do within this integration. And now I'm just so glad that we can dive deeper into, okay, what is actually happening in the bodies too? Because that's another part of your study, and what we've been doing during the week of Facilitator training is also taking measure of the biofields of people.
Yeah, so the beauty of the science technology we have today is we're able to measure the human biofield and look at the mental body, the spiritual body, the physical body, all of our auric field in detail quantitatively. And look at our chakra alignment quantitatively, even chakra by chakra by chakra. And furthermore, actually get a metric for the amount of energy your biofield is holding at any one time. And so what's interesting is prior to coming into this journey and doing this work, having read a lot of Dr. Kordakov's work, Dr. Kordakov is the pioneer in the human biofield and these technologies. The average human biofield, runs in the 30 to 45 range, joules times 10 to the negative 2, which is very complex, but you can think of it as 30 to 45. And even just being in this space, what we've already started to see is pre-Heka activation and post-Heka activation, every individual that we've tested, their total complete biofield energy went up in orders of magnitude from one session. And furthermore, what we've seen is that over the course of the week, the individuals are actually holding more energy in their biofield above normal baseline, normal age match controls. So that starts to signal to us that through processes like this, and this is not the only process, of course, we know there's a lot of work out there on how to get coherent from the ages of doing straight meditation, Kriya Yoga, etc. But activating the light body through any process will allow you to hold more energy, and we can actually measure that, and we're seeing that. I'll take it a step further because we did a heart opening activation this week, which was preceded by meditation, and then we did a one-on-one or small group heart chakra Heka activation. And in measuring the chakras of all the individuals that were in our group cohort pre and post, each chakra increased in energy by orders of magnitude, namely the heart chakra. So what we suspect is happening, and obviously we have an early signal. We definitely need more data. In science, you need lots of data, lots of samples to give a clear conclusion. But the early signals are there that are suggestive, of course, the intuitive feeling that yes, this is the process. How it exactly is mapping out, we're unfurling it now.
Wow. This is magic.
Yeah.
I'm very excited because I know that we're going to take these studies really to how far as they should go to really get those beautiful concrete results. But it's already speaking so much, right? Yeah. It's like it's confirming with science, which is great for the mind and for the world we live in, that our intuition is right. And when we are walking this earth, following what is in the heart and then opening those spaces with other people that are willing to go there as well, there is actual power that is happening here. We are healing, we are creating miracles, and it is all coming from the heart. It's all coming from our pure intention and our capacity to let go of the armors, let go of whatever barrier is in the mind can come in the way of us and the miracle, and actually give into it to then observe it and feel it happen first, but now actually see it happening on concrete result in our human field. So it's magical because I feel like we are on the way to really giving a proven system to how to perform miracles, how to become the miracle that we are. And it all comes from this heart prayer of believing in everything is possible, everything is unlimited, and we are that. We are that vessel of infinite possibilities.
That's absolutely correct. I think everything is, as you just described, from your intention, everything with our intention, our belief system, having a belief that you're unlimited, and what you call in when you dial into your heart and you call in your guides, you call in the highest light, you are calling it in. And this experience of going through the Heka Facilitator process, as well as being on the science side of it, it's confirming that, yes, when we call in this light, the light comes in, and light is energy. And I will add, we did an experiment where we looked at the soundtrack that is used during the Heka experience. And we exposed water to a room where the Heka transmission was taking place online, which was pre-recorded. So the water was exposed to the room as well as the sound. And then another glass was exposed just to the room and no sound at all. And what we found was that energy is transmitted in both situations. And so there's different forms of this energy that are being transmitted. One is seemingly through the facilitator process, just opening the field and bringing the light in. And that supercharges the water, but needs to be focused. And when the soundtrack is there, the energy seems to bind to the sound wave, and it becomes a living transmission that enters the water and gives it that coherence. And so we have metrics on entropy and so forth for this too. But it starts to bring us back to exactly what you said, which is the intention and the belief system, and then getting into the heart space, bringing that heart-brain coherence in, and then allowing you to be the tuning fork or the vessel through which this is transmitted. It's all coming from the field, the divine field, the greater field. And then the way it focuses in is by attaching itself, in this case, to the form of sound, and that's the mechanism that's being used.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, honestly.
It makes a lot of sense to me too, but it's nice to see it because it actually unfolds.
Yeah, and we've always said, Facilitator, we always say the music will support the journey. The energy will use the music to travel in space. Yeah. And that is completely what we're seeing with this experience. It's that right now in our 3D physical world, we don't have yet the coherent spaces in places and spaces to have that kind of level of really high frequencies coming through and to be in that same coherence in that level of dimensional plane. And so we need something in between, like a vessel or an intermediary to actually carry out those high frequencies into this physical world. That's a little bit how I received the experience because it just makes sense. We are tapping into the absolute divine field, which by definition is vibrating at such a higher frequency than the 3D that we are now here. And it's also receiving those frequencies and allowing them to awaken our bodies and our hearts. It's allowing the body to become more etheric and to expand its capacity, nervous system capacity too. And so that is showing this. It's like we are transitioning right now. And right now the music is such a beautiful helper for all of our system, not just the physical capacity to travel the light frequencies in the space of 3D, but also for the emotional body, for the soul body, for everything that we can connect to it and we can actually let go of the mind and then merge deeper into the process. And so access those higher frequencies that are actually inside of us, but also all around.
Yeah, and I think, it's exactly that. You touched upon the nervous system. Our consciousness is channeled through our nervous system. And so when we're able to hold more energy, our consciousness is able to upregulate. And that's manifest, as we saw, with the increasing biofield numbers for the participants that are going through this process. So they're actually getting a consciousness upgrade through each session. Now, again, it's up to all of us to do the work on a daily basis to maintain the coherence, because like any vehicle or vessel, if you don't maintain it, it starts to degrade over time. And so what we put into our field, what we bring into our energy space, does impact our overall consciousness and thus our nervous system. And I was sharing this with the group, actually, privately. I'm not sure if I shared it with you even, but I've done an experiment already where I exposed the room and measured the electromagnetic field when a 24-hour news channel was running. And within 10 minutes, there was extremely disorder, extreme chaos, and the entropy values were off the charts. Once the signal was stopped, once the cell phone was turned off, the room remained in chaos for the next hour. And when it was then re-exposed to a comedy channel, it started to increase its coherence again. So what we know again is what's in our environment affects our field, and it's affecting us metrically, and the effects go on beyond when the signal is interrupted. And we can remember that from our own life. You walk into a room and there's been an argument in the room, the energy feels weird, and it's because it's lingering. That entropy, that chaos is lingering. So all of this connects. It all makes sense to our regular life.
We're basically showing and now understanding with all its dimension layer of understanding with the mind. We're understanding how powerful we are.
Yes.
And how what we believe, what we emit, what we take in is actually so important, and it will determine everything in our life, especially the way we hold ourselves and the way we move in our life, the way we allow ourselves to believe in the things that we want to create, that we are meant to receive and things like that. So it's incredibly important work that we're starting, and I'm super excited that we continue.
Grateful to be on the journey, and I think, as we know, like, we're limitless, and we got to continue with that mindset.
Yeah, always limitless. Yes. I love that. Thank you so much, Sunny.
Thank you, Sophie.
And to many, many more sharings with all the community about what we find.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Sweet.
That was
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.